So, you want to play Fantasy Flight Games, Fantasy Samurai RPG, Legend of the Five Rings? Why wouldn't you? It's an awesome game, but you just don't know where to start. Well, this is the video for you. We're going to be talking about, not the lore and what it is. I got plenty of lore videos. There'll be more playlists somewhere in the link, click video. Today we're talking about the physical stuff that you need to play the game. First of all, obviously, we have a core rulebook. This is a big old core rulebook. It's a fairly complex-ish game. Not the most complex game I have, but a bit more so than most. A bit more to it than D&D 5th edition on average, though I guess it depends on how deep into the spells you go, but I guess you could say the same thing for here. Anyway, because of that, it's reasonably thick, is a decent amount of money. It's not your, $20, $30 player's handbook from D&D, but you need this to play the game. There's no avoiding that, unfortunately. In the book, you'll find basically 31 classes to choose from. You have 7 great clans, 7 kingdoms, part of this insular empire, that's the word. Insular Empire, the Emerald Empire, 7 kingdoms, and also a whole bunch of minor ones, but really the 7 are playable. And they have like 4 or 5 classes each, and also there's a 31st, which anyone can play as. And so we have all of these options, all of this stuff to play with. You could play as one clan and have every player in the group. One clan, a different play style, technically. Not as easy to do without the expansions, but you have a lot here. You don't really need to get an expansion, but you probably want to get an expansion. Largely for the lore. I mean, there's so much. There's like 7 massive kingdoms. There's only so much to go around, and it's sort of piecemeal throughout the whole thing. Anyway, it is a great game. Very samurai-esque, not just fantasy hack and slash with the Asian dressing on it, but you need this. You also need some dice. They have proprietary dice. As far as proprietary dice goes, probably the most useful feeling of proprietary dice. It feels very samurai, very thematic. The lore, the theme, and the mechanics very heavily tied in this game. One way to get the dice, that brings us to 2 big expansions we're going to talk about: the GM kit and the beginner game. Which, do I have anything representing the beginner game? Here we go. So first of all, the GM kit. We got a beautiful GM screen. It's going to have this. It's also going to have like a 31-ish or whatever page adventure booklet, complete with a minor clan, statted, and a new class to play as. Get this, in the core rulebook, you have 32 classes for your players, and the first minor clan that they pay for. There's an online free minor clan as well. I have a video on that as well. Check that out. Beautiful GM screen. The GM screen is pretty useful because it's a reasonably complex-ish game, as I said before. It'll help you learn the game and also help you navigate the rulebook better as a GM. Everything's easier, and a pretty decent adventure, though not a great starting adventure. Check out that review for more info as to why and how to deal with that. The beginner game, we got an adventure book, similar size, though it's more tutorial-esque, painstakingly walking you through the process, which is very helpful. We got the pre-made characters, a couple of them, if that's your thing. The rule book, basic rules, which is always nice to have another one of these at the table to help you, and there's adversaries in it. Someone's looking up their class stuff in the book, and you need that, so that's pretty useful. What else set of dice. That was my segue into this. The beginner game has a set of dice, which one set is only one set. Unlike in Fantasy Flight's other games, especially their Star Wars games, that wasn't always the case, but one set feels like one set. Ideally, you have more than one set. One for each player and the GM, of course, but the beginner game, that's one way to get it. You can also buy them separately, of course, obviously. Also, though, in the beginner game is the first of many beautiful, awesome, one of the best parts of this game. These maps, I got 3 of them at this point, which basically in the beginner game, it's this giant map. On one side, it's this is Rokugan. This is all of the clans joined together to form the Emerald Empire of Rokugan. And you have other lands, and it's massive, it's beautiful, it looks great. It's the exact same map in the core rulebook, but better. Players can look at it, plan their stuff. You talk with them from the book. It's just way more convenient. What are you gonna do? Get off your ass and point at? I ain't doing that. No, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna explain. Okay, south of that, there's mountains. That's where you guys are right now. That's way easier. Also, stuff pertaining to the adventure, cities, palaces, Some of them are varying degrees of useful after the adventure that they're built for. Oh, also a sheet of tokens with NPC adversaries. Very useful beginner game. Check out that review, but overall, one of the more useful beginner games I've seen. Starfinder may be better, but this game is better, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, so yeah, we got the GM kit, we got the beginner game, both really good for the GM. What about for the player? Is there stuff for the player, Steve, you say? There is stuff for the player. So we have basically two types of source books. They're all location source books, really, but I put them into two categories. One's really good for the player, and one is really just a GM thing. Anyway, we have the bigger world books. We'll talk about those in a minute. But then we have the smaller, they're actually not that small to be honest, like 140-ish pages of what I call the clan books. They're all about locations revolving around a certain clan's lands. Basically, you can call it a clan book. This is about the Crane clan lands, and this is the Crab clan lands. And if you are a player of that persuasion, odds are you want to get it, because there's not a lot of lore in this. Not enough to satiate my appetite. I was very intrigued, especially because the way they piecemeal in every, like, equipment entry or every player option, every little step. Pick your clan, pick one of several families, one of several schools. There's just more and more lore, this little trickle which draws you in, and then you look at the beautiful map and you find all the locations mentioned. Experiencing the lore in this game is so awesome, except there's just not enough of it. 7 kingdoms, what are you gonna do? Plus all the minor ones. Anyway, if you're a player for Crane or for Crab, you probably want one of these books. Or if you're running a campaign in one of these areas that sound interesting, you probably want one of these books. But it's not all the thing has to offer. Not just a big old section on lore and history of those lands for that clan, although that is the case. They also have adventures, or at least this one does. I don't know why this one doesn't. I'm gonna have words to say about this one. Why can't you be more like your older brother? This one has these amazing adventure seeds where it's just like a little thing, like a beginning, middle, end, and it's usually tied to a little location, so they'll talk about a big location broadly. Here's the history of the Shadowlands and what it's like to live in the Shadowlands and be there and, you know, do whatever adversaries and enemies you can find, blah, 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 blah. Then, one by one, they go into more specific locations. Here's a lake, here's a tomb, here's a this, that you might find. They're labeled on a corresponding map inside the book, which has another corresponding bigger map, which are in the adventure modules. We'll get back to those. And then they do that for, like, a bunch of different locations. There's 15 adventure seats, basically 15 adventures, with NPCs and location data based off of where they're in. And it's just, that's a whole campaign. You can make a whole campaign with this book. Not with this book. Why can't they had a good formula. Just follow the formula. What are the adventure seeds hidden? I don't know where they are, but most of the books in general have those adventure seeds. They also have a whole bunch of info on the families. One of the big choices you make, what samurai family are you from? And there'll be 4 or 5, and so it's good to have lore on the families, get a better sense of where your character comes from. There's also new playable options, which is wonderful. The new samurai schools, so they have, this one is like 8, there's 10. I think at this point I have like 60 something. And in the game, fully, there might be like 70 different samurai schools. Anyway, these books are incredibly useful, and this one was amazing. I gushed over this entire book, the entire 23-minute review. Check that out. Unless you have, you know, like a job or a life. Do something else with your time. Oh, also, Minor Clan. Some people like to play the underdog, the little guy. The minor clans, they need special rules in the Empire, so the great clans don't just roll over them. And these come with a minor clan each, and the amount of coverage in these things is insane. This one has some ghost hunters, Falcon Clan. This one's got the Deer Clan. Deer Clan's amazing. Deer Clan's my favorite clan. And this has the best great clan, Crab Clan. Hashtag Crab Clan for life. Objectively, scientifically proven best clan. There's also a Phoenix Clan book coming out. Focus on Phoenix Clan lands and spiritual stuff. Hopefully they'll have one for every great clan. I don't know if they will, but hopefully. Also, they'll have new rules and equipment and all sorts of stuff that sort of relate to the theme of the lands. This one is very big on ninja. Ninja player options, ninja equipment, also diplomacy. Crane's big with diplomacy. A lot of ninjaing happens behind the scenes of diplomacy type stuff. But yeah, so those are the clan books. Let's move on. The other type of book are these much larger. So far, only one's actually been released, but no, 2 of them have been released. I just don't have it yet. I don't have it yet, so it doesn't exist. This is what, 250-ish pages? This it's a location source book like the others, but it's tied more by like thematic connection than geographic specifically, because it's locations all over Rokugan. And this one has a big emphasis on royal families. Most of the 9-player options are royal families, so you can be an even upper level, a snootier, higher up samurai if you want to be. If you want to look down on the rest of your party, not all of them played peasants. Most of them played samurai because it's a samurai game. You can pick one of these people and look down on them. It's a big plus for me. They have a couple different chapters on different types of locations, like palaces, cities, farms, etc. And they'll talk about, at the beginning of the chapter, in general, how farms tend to work and all the intricacies. What is it like to live on a farm? Just any information you could possibly want to know. And then they'll actually have specific locations, which have their own adventure seeds and NPCs, just like I talked about in the Shadowlands book. 29. There's 29 adventures, basically, in this thing alone. That's huge. Scattered all over the Empire, but, you know, it's still pretty good. And, of course, we also have various player options and equipment and new things. This is really great if you don't know what your campaign is going to be about, or if you know you want it to be a very empire-hopping campaign. The sister book to this, Path of Waves, is all about people who are not samurai, including foreigners. There's a bunch of info on the Ivory Kingdoms, something that's only been vaguely referenced up until now, at least in this edition of the game. And so Path of Waves will focus on that, but also Ronin, sort of lordless samurai, and I think peasants. I don't have it yet. Books are expensive, y'all, and this is not exactly high-paying stuff that I do here. For now. But that's in general what it's about. So it's about the theme of stuff sort of in between the samurai and outside the samurai. This is about the samurai in general, so it's spread out more as far as locations go. It's also bigger, more general, and really that book, that's probably only good if people are sick of Rokugan and want something new. I don't think people really need to get that book anytime soon, but I don't know, it depends. I have to read it first, but that's the basic idea of it. The final type of expansion I want to talk about may very well be my most favorite one. We have the adventure modules, which come in 3 parts. We have the adventure rulebook, about 30 pages or so, give or take. We also have another beautifully colored map, which has stuff related to the adventure, although this is just a southern tip of Rokugan, but zoomed in and enhanced, more detail, more locations, same map that's in its corresponding sourcebook. Each of these adventure modules, they correspond to a sourcebook and they reference each other, feed into each other, work well together, and then on the opposite side we'll have we'll have more maps to help with the adventure. Spoilers, don't look at the map, spoilers. Also new tokens, they're tokens, creatures, NPCs, players, whatever you need them for, we get tokens. And of course they relate to the adventure, like this one's about the Shadowlands and evil, so of course we have a whole bunch of zombie samurai. It's mostly just zombie samurai in various states of decay. And then of course the adventure itself, 30-ish pages, a wide variety so far. This one is a very classic, like a D&D hack and slash through a dark, angry dungeon of evil. Very old school, classic or cliche, depending on your point of view. This one is more diplomatic in nature, and it is companion piece to the Quartz of Stone, the Crane Clan sourcebook. If you want more diplomacy and really getting a taste of the inner conflict of Rokugan, all these different clans, kind of button heads, but because there's a certain amount of butting heads in a way that's sort of a checks and balances that keeps a level of stability there, which is fun. If that's your thing, we have an adventure for you. We also have the Phoenix Clan one. That one looks really awesome because it starts with all the players are dead. So if you have a TPK, all the players are dead. Do you have them roll new characters? No, you just keep going. You just keep playing. Just keep playing. Or have them roll new characters too. If they're really making you mad, then have them roll new characters. But you can just keep playing with that adventure. I'm really excited for that one. And a bunch of free adventures online, many of which will tie to some of the stuff here. Like, I think one of the maps in the beginner game, like the palace map, I don't think that's even in the beginner game adventure whatsoever. It's barely mentioned because it's on a free online sequel adventure that takes place after the beginner game adventure. There's like a tournament or something, the results of which will lead the players to another adventure that you can get for free online, and it'll make, I think it's almost entirely in that map. Also, let's see, there's one that ties to this adventure, kind of, not really, with the rat people, but it's really just a very short encounter or two, and anytime they're over the wall in the Shadowlands, you can use that. And there's like talking ones, one that focuses on the marriage between two clans and the strength of that alliance, or something like that. There's a nice variety, so much stuff for this game. One of the best supported RPGs I have ever seen, and it's also just a fantastic game. It's probably my favorite, it's not probably, it is my favorite RPG in existence at the moment. So, if you want to check it out, just a basic info on what is out there, and check out my videos for more specifics. Soon, I will be probably reviewing this. So yeah, see you then.